Hey everybody, how you doing today? We're here for another video. And you know what? Today's topic's a little important to me, so let me get geared up for it. Think it'll be a little more official if I come to you in the lab coat. Because today we're talking about science. In fact, I'm really excited for this one. I got 4 full pages of typed up notes because it's just such a deep topic to me. I've actually filmed this twice and wasn't satisfied, so I think I got it this time though. You've probably heard that the universe is balanced on a razor's edge. And the truth is, I don't think the universe explains God so much as God explains the universe. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't have all the answers. If you're just now getting into creationism, I think there's some great resources you should check out. I really like Dr. Kent Hovind, Dr. Dino. Also, the show is Genesis History. There's a lot of really great qualified scientists on there who sometimes know more about physics, cosmology, geology, things that aren't necessarily my area of expertise. But I wanted to share some things that I have found and have observed with you today when it comes to the world of science. Now, since this is such a deeply personal topic to me, I could talk about it all day for hours. So this will probably be a pretty long video, but I'm also going to split it into 2 parts. One where we look at the cosmos in design, and then next time we'll look at something that is a little more in my wheelhouse, which is the cells in design and really life here on Earth. But for today, I really just want to share a little bit more of my story and kind of define some of the physical constants that really lead to our understanding of what we call fine tuning of the universe. Great thing to look up after this video as well if you want to learn more, fine tuning. Yeah, so a little bit more about my background. I have a bachelor's of science in biochemistry, as well as interdisciplinary minor in microbiology that are certified by the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. On top of that, I also did research for a little over 2 years in phytopathology through the Department of Bioagricultural Sciences at CSU. I am a published researcher. You can find some of my papers in plant disease. I mostly studied a pathogen called Spongospora subterranea, which is an obligate parasite, basically, and it's part of the Plasmodiophora family, which is a pretty unique type of life form that doesn't get a lot of attention. But yeah, so that's just my background and credentials and why I'm even qualified to talk about science at all. That being said, throughout my educational career, essentially, there was one professor that really stood out to me, and that's Dr. Aaron Shoulders at CSU. And I really just want to give him his flowers because of the dozens of professors I had and all the learning experiences I had throughout all of my biochemistry degree. He was the only professor the whole time who opened his class with like a 2-page profession of his love and belief in Jesus Christ. And at the time, it seemed, I think, really odd to a lot of us students, and myself included, because I was, kind of in the wilderness at that time. But now looking back, I'm just really grateful that he took the time to do that. And I'm actually finally now seeing things through his perspective and through some of his belief, where I think that's really bold and really hard to do for most people in science, because it is just easier and kind of expected to go along with the status quo, even if you are leaning towards more of the creationist argument. So just wanted to say thanks to Dr. Shoulders. He really has inspired me to kind of be more open and honest and reflective about these things. Now, I think part of the truth as I've gone deeper and deeper in my education and learned more things, something that a lot of scientists don't want to say or don't want to admit is that it's very hard for us to say, I don't know about something. And that leads to a lot of assumptions, and it leads to a lot of going deep down the wrong path sometimes, I believe, without true understanding or verification of some of the tenets that we hold very close. So I just want to talk about a few of those assumptions when it comes to cosmology And one thing I really admire about, creationists like Dr. Hovind, or even just clergymen like Cliff Kneckle, is they will very quickly say, I don't know, if something is beyond the scope of their understanding. And I think that's something I'd love to see more in the scientific community, is just to say, I don't know. But yeah, some of the assumptions that, I think when it comes to cosmology that I see kind of perpetrated quite often that are in support of anything from, basic general relativity all the way down to string theory are things like uniformitarianism, which basically says that the physical processes we observe today have always operated the same way in the past. That's a big assumption we make. This is used to extrapolate star formation rates, nuclear decay, geological processes, and really the entire cosmic expansion, tracing it backwards through time. But it goes on. Physical constants and laws have never changed. That's another big assumption. Again, that ties to radiometric dating, stellar evolution models, light travel time estimates, and cosmological simulations. And I think it's interesting because we are quick to assume that the past behaves like the present, but the Bible itself says that the past included acts that are anything unlike what we have today. And it's kind of a necessity that arises in science that we assume that the rules have not changed, because without that assumption, the math breaks really quickly. Another big assumption we make is naturalism, which is that all explanations must be purely naturalistic. That is, they arise from the natural world without any supernatural injections. And in that way, it's kind of like modern cosmology doesn't disprove creation, but it sort of automatically is excluding it by definition. There's a few more major assumptions in cosmology that have led to the prevailing theories we have today, but don't really lend themselves well to the logic of the situations, which is that the universe is homogeneous and isotropic on large scales, that light has always traveled at the same speed and reflects elapsed time, and that radioactive decay rates have never changed. So, we have 5 already. I could go on, but I think, in general, whether it's cosmology, biology, geology, we have certain assumptions that we base in the entire block of knowledge on, and we can't really prove that they're true. When it comes down to it, that's the honest truth. We cannot prove these things. And I think another big issue is that when our observations don't fit the model, we have to add in new entities to save the model. That's what we see with Hawking and all the big theoretical physicist guys. They'll add in new bodies of gravity, new ways of dealing with mass, new solutions to save the model. So I think it's erroneous to say that the Big Bang and things like that are based purely off of data, when it's really data that's viewed through a philosophical commitment. So I do appreciate science. It taught me how to measure. It taught me how to isolate, how to reduce things down to their base elements. But at the same time, to me, science is only as useful as it is applicable. And while many applicable things have come from, theoretical or foundational research, it's very rarely is it driven or guided towards what we figure out. A lot of times it's just blind luck. And if you don't believe that, I would challenge you to sit in a 400 or 500 level quantum chemistry course and listen to the instructor try to explain something as basic as the wave-like nature of light or the particle-like nature of light, the duality, the dual nature of light, right? It's very hard to explain, and you could tell right off the way that we're adding human conventions to try and explain something that's actually divine. And, a lot of people ask me, why did you even go down this road? I like Ecclesiastes 7:25, which says, I applied mine heart to know, and to search, and to seek out wisdom, and the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I think, having a curious, logical mind, like so many great creation scientists do, I was pressed to seek out and understand different worldviews and different ethical frameworks and even different religions and mythology from a young age, because I had all these pressing questions about the greater world around us, right? But looking back, I don't think I was ever trying to disprove God so much as I was trying to understand his work. And it is beautiful. And it's funny because nowadays I go to a Pentecostal church, which is pretty much a complete 180 from someone trying to justify a non-literal interpretation of the Bible. And so I will say nowadays I interpret Genesis literally. I think Jesus did. I'd say the apostles did. And I think all of Scripture treats the stories of Adam and Noah and creation as literal and not metaphorical. I think a big mistake that most scientists make when we look at the cosmological models is that we assume maturity requires time. But, as human beings, we don't really apply that logic everywhere else equally across the board. Like if you think about media, right? Movies, TV, video games. And I think I heard something great on George Jenko the other day when he was having a conversation, and he's like, well, when we create a video game, it might have mountains, and it might have rivers, and it might even have entire star systems, but we know it didn't take the normal amount of time for the developers to create these things. They didn't have to put the seed of water and let the river actually erode in real time. They created it by hand, and so it was created functionally. And we know from the gospel that Adam was created as a mature creation in a functional world. So that being said, it's as simple as God being beyond the limits of time and space. So with that, I want to get a little bit into physical constants and the concept that's known as fine tuning, which goes back to that universe is balanced on a razor's edge. And I think that, in my heart of hearts, constants are great evidence for the existence of God if you are that logical mind. If we look at just the cosmological constant alone, it is a 1 in a 10 to the 120th, or that's a decimal with 120 zeros, chance that galaxies even exist. And that's a smaller probability than the human mind can truly comprehend. But an easy metaphorical way of describing it is it's like taking aim at a single atom in the entire observable universe and hitting it on your very first try. So to me, the physical constants, and we'll throw some up on the screen, I think they truly reveal God's restraint, order, and his intelligibility. I think God set boundaries and made creation intelligible enough for us to explore, but not for us to exhaust. To me, the physical constants it's God's way of saying, I want you to understand and explore my work as best you can, but you can never replace me. I mean, the truth is, none of these numbers had to be knowable, but God made them consistent and obvious enough for us to figure out to build technology, but also mysterious enough to humble us. And if you look at Deuteronomy 29:29, it says, the secret things belong to the Lord. So I think science is excellent about telling us about behaviors once a system exists, but it's very poor generally at explaining why things exist. And I don't claim to have all the explanations. There's a lot of gaps in my knowledge, but I do trust the one who does. To me, creationism doesn't remove mystery. It just declares authorship. And when we look out at this amazing universe all around us, it's true that the heavens actually declare the glory of God, not that we won some sort of cosmological lottery by chance. I won't get too deep into the constants today because I'm not a physicist, and there's plenty of resources out there for you to learn more about this. But a few examples. Gravity is set so that stars can form but not burn out too fast. The expansion is set so that the universe doesn't collapse or fly apart. Chemistry is set so that atoms can actually bind into molecules and then greater structures. And that balance is extremely precise, just like we saw with the cosmological constant. Imagine that probability repeating itself over and over and over again across pretty much every physical property of the universe. And I hope you don't mind me quoting some Apocrypha, but this is from the Wisdom of Solomon 11:20. He has ordered all things by measure, number, and weight. And like I said, cosmology isn't my field. I respect it, but I don't claim mastery. And so that's why I'm excited that tomorrow we're going to move into biochemistry and genetics, which are truly my field. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you glean something off of this. And like I said, there's tons of great resources on creationism out there. And, people have different ideas. People have different opinions. And I try to go by what the scripture says. I think that's the easiest way to fall back on. And it's easiest to trust people who are willing to stand up and say, I don't know. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.